It's the first time. Are you excited? I'm excited. I'm very excited. They did this to me last week. They're like, oh, by the way, right before I went up, oh, you're going to be on Instagram Live. I'm like, you're going to be on there too. Yeah. And then Julie told me, oh, well, we'll wait to put it on the website until we'll sit down. Sure. Yeah, but I can edit it. I can cut it out. I can cut it all out. That's like I can edit it from the moment you say, hi, thank you so much for coming. That was great. Yeah, and then we can add bloopers sometimes just to get a little rise out of people, show them how fun our community is. Oh my goodness. Teamwork makes the dream work. That's right. We need to give the whole movie show. That would be interesting. You're going to have a folder. Just these chairs don't have folders.
We didn't check your mic. Is it working?
What?
Mic?
Yes, the mic is working. We tested it earlier.
Oh, you did. So we're good.
We're being connected right now on Zoom. Yes, we started this process in 2 months. I just said, good evening. Thank you for coming. So my name is Anna Eastburn. I am a performance dietitian, and tonight we are going to be discussing gut health and promoting a robust immune system. Sorry, it's here. Okay. Also, okay, we're going to try this again. Yes.
This thing. Hold on.
Okay.
The sensor, it's hanging it down.
We're going to work through the technical.
We're all in this together, guys.
Yes.
This is part of community. Like weird stuff happens, okay?
It's yeah.
Try it again.
Okay. Yeah. Give it a whirl.
So in general. It literally froze. Oh, there it goes.
Okay,
Is that too many of them?
no, that's
Okay.
correct. Woohoo, all right, now we're cooking. We got it.
Do you want to start over?
Sure, we can edit all that?
Yep.
Okay, sure, certainly. Let me go back to the beginning. All right, here we go. Good evening, hello, thank you for coming. My name is Anna and I am a performance dietitian, and tonight we are going to chat about our introduction to gut health and promoting a robust immune system. For those of you that are in the audience, you did receive a gut health questionnaire and a gut and immune health kind of goal setting. But as we go through, I wanted to just kind of highlight a couple of things from the questionnaire. You know, Hippocrates once said that all disease begins in the gut. And he was at that time really onto something. So while not all diseases begin in the gut, there are certainly many that can be either managed or the risks decreased by how we maintain our microbiome. So what constitutes a healthy bowel movement? As we kind of go through, I don't know how many of you, I work in a facility where I share a bathroom with a large number of individuals. Yes, it is a, yep, so everybody gets to share that bathroom. And so there is such thing as a courtesy flush, and that exists for a reason, right? So you want to think about it when you are thinking about what your stool looks like and what your bowel movement looks like, what it consists of. Like, have you ever truly really taken a look at it and consider what it should look like versus what it does? So in other words, what we're looking for good color. You're looking for brown, shades of brown, sometimes green. Usually that's dependent upon your nutrition and the foods that you have consumed, right? Obviously, if you've eaten a lot of leafy greens or if you have beets in your diet, then you know that things are going to change color kind of based on that. Consistency, you're looking for a long. And it calls it Lincoln logs. We're looking for Lincoln logs, right? So we're looking for either that C shape, so somewhat the shape of the intestine, or just a log shape. And usually, something is about 4 to 8 inches in size. But ideally, not looking for something that blows up the toilet. There shouldn't be remnants all over the rim. I mean, ideally, it is one log, and it should be easy to sit down and not necessarily have to push. It should go with ease, right? And you shouldn't be in the bathroom more than 5 minutes. I have a saying, it's Bidet, get done, get out. Get done, get out. Let me be doing anything else in there. We're reading or whatever, let's rock and roll. But a lot of times, your bowel movements can actually be a pretty good indicator of what's going on inside. So in other words, moving on. Everybody familiar with the Bristol stool chart? No? Yes? Okay, so the Bristol stool chart really just gives you a pretty good idea of what different bowel movements look like, but where you want to be versus where you currently are. And so one of the things I encourage you to do, and some of the homework, is over the next 2 weeks, really take a good look at what your bowel movements are. How many times do you go a day? How many times do you go a week? And when you go, what does that look like? So if you've got like the rabbit pellets going on there at the top, that's constipation, right? We're usually pretty hard to pass. It's usually dry, and that's generally because you're constipated and there's probably not a lot of fiber going on. And then type 2, so I don't need to run through them all, but this is what you're looking for. Ideally, you're looking for a type 3, type 4, kind of that sausage shape, or shape, smooth. That's about the goal. So keep an eye this week, see where you are, and also so look at that in comparison to your food intake and your nutrition. So because it'll all kind of depend, as you begin to add more fiber in your diet, your stools will change for the better. So yeah, let's spend the next week or 2 checking out your poop and have a little, do a little journal to kind of log. So there are a couple of different things that can actually enhance the experience. So one of them is a squatty potty. Everyone familiar? Yeah. All right. For those of you that are not, they're pretty amazing. Basically, they help you get into like that optimal squat position. Helps things to pass easier and more completely, which is one of the things that we're looking for. Another thing is a bidet. And everyone familiar with a bidet? Yeah, they're pretty nice. I recently used one of those. I have not been exposed to them in the past. So I think that's a pretty nice option. Also, it's good for the environment, so definitely down with that. And the last one being pelvic floor therapy or pelvic floor exercises. So for individuals that are experiencing any issues with constipation, but that can also be women that have recently given birth or given birth in the past and are having some challenges, like pelvic floor therapy can absolutely help with that. But that doesn't mean it's just only for women. The pelvic floor therapy is very effective for men as well. And really what it's helping to do, correct me if I'm wrong here, but training the muscles to coordinate and relax so that you can have a good balance. That's my own way.
It was quarterly with you guys, and it's 3 days.
Perfect. So there we go. We're putting the pelvic floor in a better position.
Like a product into
Yes. So when you think about the gut microbiome, I want you to think about a garden, right? So we all have this garden in our gut. So the gut microbiome, it is absolutely dependent upon the food that you consume, how you live your life, the things that you bring in, not only in terms of food, but also your environment. And then each individual, so each person's gut microbiome, and even the research has proven that you can have twins, identical twins, and their gut microbiome is not necessarily identical. So it's really dependent upon you, how you live your life, how you eat the foods that you eat, and how you feed your gut. So this information is important because 70% of your immune system is contained within the gut, right? So if 70% of your immune system is contained in there, that means that the things that you bring into your body absolutely have an impact on your ability to ward off colds, viruses, and things like that. So impaired gut health is associated with like diseases such as diabetes, with things that we were talking about earlier in terms of autism, anxiety, depression, cholesterol. So you want to think about everything that you put in can actually help to manage some of these things. Gut-friendly nutrition and lifestyle habits. So really you want to focus on having a super high fiber diet, right? So make sure that when you look at the foods that you're consuming, when you're planning your plate, no less than 1/2 of your plate should be vegetables and fruit, most especially non-starchy vegetables, right? So we're looking to make sure that we're getting, if we're a lady, we want to have about, or women, 25 grams of fiber, and then if you're a guy, you want about 38. So there's a wide range, but you want to be able to hit that minimum. And the American population right now, we're kind of in the teens. I believe it's somewhere around 12 to 15 grams maybe a day. So we want to make sure that we're really focusing on a wide and diverse intake of vegetables and fruit. Omega-3 fatty acids are amazing, natural anti-inflammatories. You want to make sure that every time you sit down and eat, give yourself time. Give your food time to digest. Give yourself time to chew. It really should be a conscious effort. One of the docs that I work with, he literally ate breakfast in about 2 minutes sitting. And I said, first of all, how is your brain? How is the signal from your stomach to your brain? How is that going to work that says, I just ate and I'm full, if it's only taking about 2 minutes? That's going to be a really interesting conversation to be held. But secondly, how much air are you taking in when you do that? Because when you're gulping your food down very quickly, you're probably going to take in a considerable amount of air. But third, you actually chewing, because digestion begins in the gut, or excuse me, digestion begins in the mouth with mastication, right? With chewing. And so ideally, we want to chew our food about 20 times. We want to help that process, right? Especially if you're consuming a carbohydrate. We have digestive enzymes in the mouth that will actually start that process for you. We want to make sure that we are chewing at least 20 times. And then make sure that we consume adequate fluids. But how many of us heard about more of the getting outside in nature and the foresting and how important that is for not only our mental health, but really getting out into that environment can actually be super good for your gut as well, right? Especially if you have the opportunity to take your shoes off and get there. That would be truly ideal. Definitely walking outside. And we live here in on the beach. So when the weather is nice and you do have the opportunity, it's a really great idea to take your shoes off and walk barefoot. Not only so that way you're touching the earth, so you're getting the grounding aspects. But then, I mean, think about being a kid, right? When you were a kid, you play outside barefoot, were you in the mud, were you in the dirt? That's ideal. That's ideal because you're actually getting the good germs and the bacteria from the soil, from the sand, from the dirt. And then if you can, hug another human or an animal for about 6 to 20 seconds. So those hugs release a hormone called oxytocin. So that's another like natural kind of feel good. New moms experience that a lot, right? With breastfeeding and whatnot, but you can actually get that same experience by either hugging someone or hugging a dog, but all of those things are incredibly good for the gut microbiome. So when we talk about those things that impair the gut health and the immune system, nutrition, absolutely. But think about all of the restaurants and whatnot, like look at the lines at the drive-thru, right? Right. So fast food, processed and refined foods, they lack fiber. They're high in saturated fat. They're calorically dense, but nutritionally deficient, right? Because they don't have adequate amount of fiber, nutrients, vitamins, minerals that the body needs. Sugary beverages, again, I just had this conversation with someone the other day. My reasoning for not being a huge supporter of such things as orange juice, because there's really no digestion, right? And what are you missing out on if you're drinking juice? You're missing out on fiber, but you're also missing out on chewing. So you're missing out on the opportunity to utilize calories to break down those foods. And then we think about not having enough vegetables, not having enough fruit in our lives, and then not meeting our hydration needs, which is roughly 1/2 ounce per pound of body weight daily. And then lifestyle habits that impair gut and immune health. So one of the big ones, really, why are you laughing? It's her life on a screen.
She's following you around and taking pictures.
But inadequate, I know I talked about this last night, but I'm telling you, like right now, nutrition and sleep are neck and neck, because they're really beginning to identify how very important sleep is, how it's not only the opportunity for rest and restoration, cellular repair, eliminating toxins, but it absolutely sets the stage for a solid, really good, healthy microbiome. Because what will happen is if we are sleep deprived, then our cortisol levels will elevate. Our ability to manage blood sugar decreases, right? So then if we then become more insulin resistant, or increase our risk for insulin resistance. High levels of stress, again, that's another one, because high levels of stress are going to elevate the hormone cortisol. And so if you're not complementing that with methods or means to manage that stress, then we're not going to bring those cortisol levels down. Emotional stress, sedentary lifestyle, right? So sitting is the new smoking. No joke. No joke. So absolutely getting up, getting around, movement is going to do a body good. But medications, I can't tell you how many times, especially if we have individuals that are going through surgery or just everybody's on a med. Like you really need to look at the side effects of your medications because many times either A, they're impairing your ability to have good bowel movements or regularity, or B, they do impair the gut health. For some people, overtraining. Anyone do like the Shamrock's probably not really a good example, but maybe how about a marathon or a triathlon, any type of an endurance activity, right? A lot of endurance athletes, like after they've competed, boom, then all of a sudden they get this cold virus after, and it's because they've just been pushing so hard, and then they finally stop, and their body's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. We're working indoors, so think about the climate that you work in, why it's so very important to work in a facility where you have windows, where there's clean air circulating around, right? Where the environment itself is fairly clean, kept nice. It doesn't, we're not talking bleach clean here. We're just talking clean and organized. But the air especially needs to be clean. The ability to maybe open windows is ideal. Because working indoors doesn't really do it right. And then we want to be mindful of all the antibacterial soaps, and I know they've got everywhere now, everywhere, these pumps placed everywhere for your hand sanitizers. I realize if you're in a healthcare setting and if you're in a setting where you're getting treatment, that's a necessity. However, we don't need to do it all. Because remember that your skin is actually your largest organ. So everything that you put on your skin, your body absorbs. Has to be processed somewhere, generally the liver, but that will definitely impact the health of the microbiome. We're going to go through some vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that will actually help to promote a healthy immune system. Everybody's saying, "What can I take? What can I take?" One of the big things that I think is important is vitamin D. Your absolute best source is going to be the sunshine, right? So, however, you need to be out in the sun, preferably in a bathing suit or shorts and a tank top. No SPF for just a few minutes. I know dermatologists are going to freak out, but if you wear SPF, the vitamin D gets deflected, right? So the vitamin D can't be absorbed by the skin. So therefore, it just needs to be a few minutes without the SPF. If you can't do that, vitamin D supplementation would be good. There are some food sources, so omega-3, like salmon is a good source for vitamin D, oily or fatty fish, some of the non-dairy beverages. But really, your best bet's probably then going to be supplementation. And then I usually recommend when I give people supplements, we'll say have that with a meal with fat, because it is a fat-soluble vitamin, therefore, it has to be absorbed with fat. It has to be eaten with fat so the body has the ability to absorb it. So there you go. So I test this on my athletes all the time. So I'm looking for a 25 hydroxy vitamin D. Generally, the levels greater than 50. I'm looking for about 60 is what I like to see. Considered adequate for bone and overall health and healthy individuals. Appropriate supplement dosage usually is based on levels from what I've seen. It really depends upon your lifestyle. It depends upon how much time you spend outside, and it depends upon your diet. So if you are someone who is inside the majority of the day, so like I don't get outside, I'm not outside. Yeah, I don't get a lot of sunshine. And so then I'm really dependent upon either A, the foods that I consume, or B, supplementation. In my experience, most individuals are insufficient in vitamin D, so their levels are somewhere in between. But working with athletes, like I need to have that number higher because again, it helps to promote a healthy immune system, but it's also for bone, for muscle, for the brain, for sleep. It has a lot of different things. When we think about vitamin C, yes, absolutely amazing for the immune system. You can get most of your vitamin C from food because it is in so many foods and so many people do they like them. They're easy to eat. It does help to slow down or prevent cell damage, which is pretty important. So we want to make sure that we're having healthy cells, but also can decrease the severity or the duration of the cold. And then there's a list of food sources. So I don't need to talk to you, but obviously there's plenty to choose from. Plenty. Zinc is really good for helping to defend the immune system as well against viruses and bacteria. Food sources, really good source, super easy is oysters, has a really high amount. Grass-fed beef is going to be the second one, and then chicken. It's in a lot. It is in a lot of meat sources, but then there are some vegetable or plant sources like chickpeas come in. And then polyphenols. So moving on to what's a little bit more important, looking at the colors. Again, getting back to the microbiome and really helping to cultivate that garden. So polyphenols are anti-inflammatory. So think about the prebiotics for the gut, right? And so the prebiotics actually are the fiber that fuel the bacteria in the gut, the good bacteria. It gives them the food, basically. Really great sources, super easy. Who doesn't drink coffee? Organic would be ideal. Filtered water would be superb. Berries, plums, sweet cherries, but you can see prebiotics again. So fertilizing, you absolutely want to think about them as fertilizer for the gut. So having the ability, you want to think about like when a farmer, for example, goes through and he is tilling and fertilizing. So you are trying to get and create a good ground, good surface upon which to make good things grow. So they are non-digestible, and they are fermented by the gut bacteria in the large intestine. So yeah, so even it goes all the way down, and by the time they get digested, they are not digested until they hit the large intestine. So think about it that way. But so fiber feeds that, promotes the immune system by increasing your good bacteria, because it's very simple to increase the bad bacteria. I mean, it's super simple with stress. Inadequate sleep, not good nutrition. But when we think about balancing and creating healthy, so the good and the bad bacteria can live harmoniously, but you want to think about what can you do to promote the good bacteria. And so consuming prebiotics, these foods that actually feed and fuel those bacteria. So chicory root apples, bananas. Probiotics. So I know that they get they're pretty popular right now. I don't think that there's anyone who doesn't know of either yogurt or kefir. They're not the only ones. I just know that for most people, like when I say probiotic, they're like, oh, yogurt. So what you're looking for, especially when you're reading the label, you want to make sure that it says live active ingredients on it. Ideally, it would be organic, especially if it is a dairy product. But they do enrich the immune system by promoting resilience and restoring the gut microbiota. So again, we're thinking about getting the good stuff in and preventing or minimizing the bad bacteria. So for me, I know that if I have an individual who's had a significant amount of antibiotic use, in their life, or if I have a surgery patient or someone who is just sick and they just happen to be placed on an antibiotic, I will generally encourage them to either consume probiotic foods. That's ideal. I try to go for that first. Otherwise, I will encourage a probiotic supplement just because that antibiotic goes in there and wipes the garden out. So you want to help it to grow that good bacteria. And then it definitely helps to improve the health and function of the digestive system by managing that. Right? And also improving nutrient absorption. And most definitely, a lot of times if you give kids the yogurt, and then these are just some amazing, pretty easy sources. Yogurt, of course, buttermilk. Good idea. Yeah. And I think It's with this, something about the star. It's for those. It's for Well, and, yeah, I would also be particular when you choose your dark chocolate, the label, make sure sugar's not the first ingredient. I mean, you're kind of gonna. Yeah.
Certainly hope that it's labeled dark chocolate, it's sugar's not the first.
Right, well, I mean, that's why you have to read. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Natto, it is, I haven't tried it yet. I want to try it. I want to try it because it's got so many amazing benefits, but it is a soy product. I believe it is Japanese. Yes, it's a fermented soy product. From what I understand, it doesn't have the best odor. However, the benefits are absolutely outstanding, and it is very high in vitamin K2. And K2 is really good when you combine that with the vitamin D for bone health. I'm a little fearful, but I think phytonutrients. You want to make sure. So again, like looking at your color, thinking about gut diversity, because really the way that you support a good healthy gut microbiome and the way you support a good immune system is by having that diversity. And so diversity means also in the foods that you consume. So making sure that there are a significant amount, at least 3 colors at every meal is a good place to start. But encouraging you to make sure that you're choosing maybe some things in the grocery that you normally wouldn't, right? So jicama, like, anyone know what to do with jicama, for example? So it has this outstanding texture. It's a vegetable. Thinking good, but just some options, right? So you want to make sure that you're trying some different things, and then even if you're making your smoothies, turmeric. Absolutely, throw some turmeric in there, some berries, flaxseed. Do you put turmeric root in your smoothies, or do you do powder? And then we think about hydration. And I'm probably going to talk about this. A lot of people do a pretty good job meeting their daily hydration goals. Right? Some people could use a little assistance. So what we're looking for is roughly 1/2 ounce per pound of body weight. Basically, because the adult human body is roughly 60 to 70% fluid. So you want to make sure that you are assisting the body in all of the processes. But I explained it today, like this analogy that you think about a toilet, right? So you have the back of the toilet, which has the tank on it, and then you have the toilet itself. And so if you think about it, if you go in and you use the toilet, if there's no water in the tank, that stuff flushing? Not. If it does, it's not going to be. So just kind of thinking about it that way, making sure that you have adequate fluid so that you can help the body move things through. But not only that, but it also helps with your muscles or something. Talking about sleep. So this is I would love to have just a topic, just an evening to chat about sleep, because this is its own, it really does deserve its own presentation. But yeah, when you sleep, all of these wonderful and beautiful things occur. And so we have a lot of cellular repair. So all of the damage that is done throughout the day gets repaired throughout the evening. It's called that rest and digest time. But it does help with the production of cytokines. So they're fighters of the immune system, helping to ward off infection and inflammation. All you ever have to do is look at a child. Watch a child and see what they do when they're sick. What do? They sleep. They sleep because their bodies know that they need that rest so that they can repair and get better. But additionally, all of those cytokines are working super hard to help the immune system. It is critical, again, for microbiome diversity. So if you think about having that garden in your gut and having that wide variety. Sleep actually helps with that, but it does also help to cleanse the brain, eliminate toxins, and then again, ghrelin, leptin have to have effective communication. So ghrelin is the hormone that says I am hungry. Leptin is the hormone that says I have had enough. And so what happens is if you are sleep deprived, those two hormones do not communicate effectively in the patient. And so therefore, many times individuals will either A, end up overeating, or B, choosing foods that they would have never chosen because they don't have the ability to get those two hormones to talk effectively and efficiently. And then the other thing that goes awry is going to be cortisol and then insulin, which are blood sugar. Sometimes if you can just get people to sleep, like I have individuals that have a rough time sleeping. If we just figure out how to get them to sleep, whether or not they have a sleep study and they get a CPAP and all that goodness, sometimes that is just enough to help drop some body weight. It's just because they're getting that repair that they weren't able to get before. And so poor sleep impairs the immune system, so getting less than 7 hours. So ideally, you want to go through, I believe, just 4 cycles of REM. If you take more than 30 minutes to fall asleep, that's a pretty good indicator that you have some sleep deficits, some sleep issues that may need a little attention. Right? Interrupted sleep. So here's the thing. With consuming alcohol, alcohol does not give you better sleep, right? That you're just basically, it is more along the lines of like passing out, for lack of a better word, but it doesn't allow for that deep restful sleep. It doesn't allow for the REM sleep. The delta will be interrupted as well. Caffeine, so for some individuals are very caffeine sensitive. So if you're having caffeine, say past 2 p.m., caffeine has a half-life of 5 hours, but for some people who are sensitive to that, it can hang out for longer, and so it can actually impair their ability to fall asleep in the space. Caffeine's found in a lot of things. So kombucha's got some caffeine in it. So if you're thinking about having that at dinner, just remember that it does, or even the dark chocolate. For those people that are caffeine sensitive, know that it may impair your sleep. Large meal. So as I sit down and chat with people, I try to make sure that ideally, if you're not an athlete, regular active person, 3 hours. You shouldn't have any meal 3 hours before you go to bed, because you want to make sure that the body has the opportunity to digest those foods so that when you go to sleep at night, it's not focusing on digesting those foods, it's focusing on the resting and the repairing that needs to occur. Getting up to urinate, children, having little ones, so new parents, and they actually don't even have to have new parents. I have some parents whose children are 3 and 4 and just are struggling. They're struggling to sleep, which parents struggle to sleep. So and stress and worry. But just so you know, there are a lot of different things. So if your sleep is impaired, your immune system will be impaired. It doesn't have the opportunity every night to restore itself. So we think about some sleep hygiene. What are some things that you can do ideally when you go to bed and you wake up? But it may be some people's world. It's a good world though. You want to absolutely develop a pre-bedtime routine. So does everyone have a pre-bedtime? Just make it to the bedroom. All right, so think about, has everyone had children? I haven't, but I know what that looks like. I've seen my mom do it. Basically, you know, you have a really nice routine for the kids because you need them to consciously begin to wind down, right? So that might consist of a bath. That might consist of maybe some rocking in a rocking chair, and generally speaking, in my world, it consists of reading, right? That will really help to get the mindset. You also change the lighting in the room, so the lighting's not going to look like this. It's going to be very dim, which is going to help to reduce sleep because it's going to change the brain, change the mind, and let the baby. So So having the ability to set that up, or just beginning to turn the lights down, like one of the things that I start to turn your lights down, right? Maybe you use bulbs that have a lower wattage. I use Himalayan salt lamps. I love them. They give off a light orange glow. It just helps my brain settle down. Make your bedroom super dark so everyone has darkening curtains. Right? Keep the room super cold. 65, 6. So this is a big one. This one right here is huge. How many of you are on your cell phones in your bed? So, okay. So here's the bedroom ideally is for two things. It's for sleep and it's for sex. It is not for surfing the web, and it's not for watching TV. It's not for any of those things. So one of the things that you want to do is make sure that you are not, you can take your cell phone into the bedroom, but it needs to be 6 feet away, which means if you use it as your alarm clock, you have to get out to turn it off. But ideally, number one, you don't want those blue light, because it sends a signal to the brain that you're still up and you're still working and that you still need to be rocking and rolling. But the fact of the matter is, you do not. You can do the night, turning it on to the night screen, which will dim that, but it's really recommended that you cut the light. So you cut any, because it all still stimulates the brain. Like you're still processing, you're still reading. So keep an eye on that. But then making sure that things are 6 feet away, because anything that gives out an EMF, your body's going to feel that. It still interrupts the sleep quality. And then it seems like a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of things to take into consideration, but you can create a really good sleep routine and a bedroom that's conducive to rest. People feel 100% better. So these are just some. Everybody have sleepiness? I love mine. I don't have mine. That like changed my world right there. And I totally laughed when it was first recommended to me. It's actually recommended to me by a friend who's also a strength coach. It's like, you need to sleep. I thought, you just do rest. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And now I have one that I keep in my suitcase, and I have several, so I can just every time I wash my sheets. Yeah, they're amazing. Change your world. Weighted blanket. You like it? It's right. But for a lot of people, that can actually help to induce more rest, things to settle down. I did the Himalayan salt lamps dawn simulator. Anyone familiar? Yes. No? They're pretty amazing too. So dawn simulator works the same way the sun rises. So what you can, yeah, it's an alarm clock. Yes. And so if you can set it to have a sound, but then it'll just gradually, it's like the sunrise. The light will gradually begin to get brighter and brighter and brighter. And it's a really nice way to wake up. Yeah.
One bird chirps, then 3 birds chirp, then 4 birds chirp. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, yeah. And so those can be really great things. And I think you brought up a really good point. So your alarm clock or your phone, it should not sound like a siren. It should not shock you out of sleep. Because then right there, you've got fight or flight right there. You just went from rest and digest, so parasympathetic to sympathetic. No. So if you're doing that, please don't do that and find another option. Diffusers and oils are amazing. But anyway, so these are just some fun gadgets. And then some foods. People are asking me all the time, what can I eat that'll help me in my sleep? Or cherry juice. Yep, contains natural melatonin. This is natural melatonin versus popping melatonin. much cheese. How does cheese, good source of protein, but also leucine, so branched chain amino acids, especially if you're trying to put on snacks or you're just. There are some really nice options. Get a little bit back to stress. Touch on this because it is important, but high stress levels, they absolutely do, like we just talked about, that alarm clock, right? They absolutely do increase the hormone cortisol. And then that absolutely does impair your body's ability to digest food and also does delay gastric emptying. And for some individuals, stress causes emotional eating, right? So not only are you disrupting your microbiome because you're stressed, but then you're disrupting it because you're emotionally eating, and it's probably stuff that you wouldn't normally eat. Like for some people, they're going to go to chips and salty snacks. For some other people, they're going to go to sweets. So some things that you can do to relieve that stress, give yourself permission to practice self-care, do a little meditation, massage, energy medicine, grounding, and then engage in activities that you enjoy, like dancing, listening to music. But I will, real quick though, I just thought about this. I had somebody say to me yesterday, he's like, I put on the COVID-19. Y'all hear that? Or did you all? Weight gain, right? Kind of like the freshman 15, but the COVID-19. COVID-19. I was like, what? So I've heard that a couple times, but so when you really start to talk about it and you start to talk about stress, right? So this whole situation definitely elevating and escalating our stress. And then it's very interesting because you ask people, well, what kind of changes did you make that you put on that 19 pounds? And so it's an increase in alcohol consumption, right? So for individuals who maybe they're like, well, I went from having like a glass of wine, or 2 a week to having 1 a day. Okay. Or how about now that you can get anything delivered, any kind of food delivered to your house, and then as far as takeout. So if you think about it, stress creates this situation where you think, what do I need to do? What can I do to make this make feel a little bit better? Right. So we'll do the drive-through, we'll do the ordering out. So we'll have the fast food, we'll consume those snacks and items and things that are not beneficial, that are going to disturb that gut microbiome, impair our immune system, but then for some people, it also increases their body weight. So it's kind of this vicious cycle, but I wanted to just circle back on that. Because, yeah, it just came to my brain that hey, that's something. There's exactly. Yep. That's a great point. Yes. So what Julie was saying also, which is an excellent point, is that their exercise has changed. So their lows, maybe before they were doing a considerable amount of resistance training, so they were underweight a lot, as in bar. But then if you're working out at home, maybe you're only using body weight, which and then but yes, or just inactive, right? So all of a sudden you used to go to the office, now you telework, right? And we're doing a considerable amount of sitting. Or I'm hearing I binge watch, oh my gosh, these episodes of whatever on Netflix, or I binge watch this. I'm thinking, holy smokes, where's time? Like, I'm not going to do that, but I mean, for some people, but so yeah, but movement most especially. And whereas they used to do these things and now they're not necessarily taking part anymore. Well, it's interesting.
Experience compared to the New York City where they are in and they are free to go out. It's very stressful if you're not. It's like,
Physical exercise, there we go. So really, absolutely, exercise does decrease inflammation. So there is a temporary increase. So you temporarily do increase inflammation, but then there is that nice letdown. And so decrease the inflammation, and then your stress hormone cortisol will also decrease. So ideally, we're looking for 45 to 60 minutes daily. Strength training, cardio, and flexibility. And then what that might look like for you in terms of activity, strength training, walking, jogging, got mat, pushing a sled, that can always be effective. But right, especially around here, you can cycle, you can run, you can go to the beach, you can paddleboard, shoot, you can have a zillion things you can be doing. So what questions do we have? I can see if there is, I'm not a person. I have to look at that. Chelate, citrate, chelate. Really?
Obviously, but if you want a product.
Right. Mhm. Exactly. I would agree. But I was still, I think, I mean, with COVID, but even with anything, anything health related, any disease, even with anxiety, depression, like any of those things, if you can address the gut, if you can address that microbiome, ensure that you have diversity. So that you have to have different colors. You have to have a wide variety of like a wide number. Like when you get home, count the number of plant items that you eat in a month. I don't know how you do your menu cycle. I do my menu cycle. But really count that. And then once you look at how many plant options are actually coming in, then look at the difference in the colors. So then how many different colors? Because you have to remember that no two foods are created equal, right? So even as far as plants go, and as far as their fiber content and the differentiation, that is not the same. So no two foods have the same nutrition report card. Like you can berry, you can have a blueberry, and you can have a raspberry. They are not going to have the same nutrition report card. A lot of times the color indicates what's going on. But additionally, their fiber content, what that fiber consists of. So all of those things are different. So when you get home, or if even on the back of that other sheet, like take a really good look and see how many colors you really have coming in and how many different plant types that really does make a difference. I didn't talk about probiotics. Because I mean, you can get them from food. I mean, I try. So supplement the diet, right? So ideally, in a perfect world, you get everything from the food. And there are so many different places where you can get probiotics. But even if you make your own, does anybody ever make their own fermented vegetables? There you go. But just doing that, that will significantly impact the always great. In terms of supplements, I always lean towards those that are third-party tested, so either NSF certified, informed choice, or USP. And then you can look for specific, and I don't have enough specific cultures.
Supplements, may touch spectrum. This particular supplement has one or two strains where the gut is less.
Right. And that's a really valid point. And that kind of goes back to why you want to have diversity in your food, because you do have diversity in your gut, because like bifidobacterium is just one of the many different types that you have. And so, yes, taking supplements can be beneficial, and it can be beneficial, but you want to look for specific strains, and it's based upon maybe the condition you have or what you're looking to achieve. Yep. Other questions? I want to go through one of these questions. Okay. So let me ask you, why is it important if you were born C-section versus vaginal? Right. Yes, exactly. That is the best way to inoculate that child. And then, and I learned this from a doula, you actually don't want to cleanse that child. You want to allow that, what is it, 24 hours? I want to get specific on this because I think that's a great idea. But you want to allow, again, your skin is your largest organ and absorb, so transdermal, right? All of that good bacteria, all of that goodness, and that's what sets up that child. What about breastfeeding? Why is that important? Yeah, it's the same stinking reason, right? Because the mother's milk actually contains all of these great and amazing organisms and bacteria and all the goodness. Good bacteria. Yep. Yeah, having multiple rounds of antibiotics as a kid, that does actually impact on your gut. But if you know that, and you have the ability to, which you can correct that. Antacids is a big one. Antacids is a huge one. I have a lot of, yeah. Well, because so many people are put on an antacid because they think that they have high acid production. In reality, that's not exactly what's going on. And really what needs to happen is to take a look at nutrition. And yeah, remove some foods is what has to happen. But even so, basically going through, I just wanted to bring to your attention, you know, some of the different things that can impair your gut health. Like I asked you about how many times do you have a bowel movement. I had a girlfriend the other night tell me, I feel so, my pants are so tight after I eat. So then, yeah, then doing a little reading, but ideally, I mean, what's going on there is that they're consuming things that their body does not really want, and it's actually not beneficial. And so our really good friend, I sat down and said, and you know, how can we make some changes so that you're not feeling like that after? That's not how it's supposed to be. So that's either, if you feel like that after every meal, either A, you ate the wrong foods for you, B, you ate too much. I just asked you about fiber. Oh, I asked you if you need coffee to poop, because so many people need coffee. All right, but it was just really more of an awakening. I just wanted to bring this to your attention so that it would be on the just on your mind. Give it a little thought next time you plan your plate, or the next time you go. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, Mike, what you got? Sorry, hold on a second.
Suppressing food sensitivity. Food sensitivity or that based on it's why not?
Okay, so, yeah, that's, so I thought food, I mean, from what I understood, the food sensitivities were more along the lines of, you have weak gut because we don't have the right things coming in, so we're not doing our job, which is to feed that microbiome. They're not getting the fiber and the food that they need, so they are consuming, I believe it's and so that is actually what's causing the leaky gut. And the leaky gut is basically, the gut should be tight, and then it does begin to separate the components. They have these, it has the ability to go through. So the foods that you consume then end up in the bloodstream versus staying in the digestive system. I'm not familiar yet with, you said vaginal birth, and then you said developing the microbiome, and that individuals or babies that were born C-section who did not have the opportunity to be exposed to that microbiome, or did not have the opportunity to be exposed to that environment, then are generating, more likely or susceptible to sensitivities.
Yes. Another thing.
No, I understood it more along the lines of the immune system and setting that up to be able to defend more effectively versus like to sensitivity.
Myself, I've done it, and some of the things that came up sensitive, just being mindful of how I feel when I eat that, feeling. That was kind of, it seemed like that all the time. Versus other things that came up not sensitive to mindfully of eating. Sensitivity wise on my test, it came out fine. So,
Tests, you mean? That's conversation. I mean, I currently I don't have the ability to test for well versed. Taking things out, reintroducing, right? You're not reliant. That's the other thing too, because a lot of people do go out and get those other tests, but I don't know the validity. Are things changing? I'm not sure. So I'm not there yet in terms of doing the testing because I'm currently being done. I'm not ready. I have to navigate that.
Getting there and struggling to get to my number. But I noticed, like, I tried looking up, like, foods and like I've noticed the last like 3 days where they kind of keep the same, like there's colors involved. So watch the color. But I guess the question is, what does it like? We still haven't got to. So, yeah, I struggle with, like, I even just showed him a picture of fiber, gummies, sugar-free supplement. Like, if I'm short, is that something reasonable? I'm really gonna say, well, is there an alternative, or am I just like, eat extra kiwi all of a sudden, just very big this number? I just don't know if there's a
Psyllium husk? Psyllium husk? I mean, you're already doing chia. Chia's got 5 grams per tablespoon. Do you put it in your water? Yeah. Yep. Mhm. I do 2 tablespoons. I don't need-
There's no struggle with that, and I know it's. Struggle. You know, 370 pounds is really hard not to. Really, really hard. But again, I know they're good. I think it's how much of it is damage. Is that really my big thing? I'll do that.
Chia is easy. Chia and some steel cut oats. That's super easy. Make chia pudding.
I've actually been doing that because I just recently discovered a first watch.
Wait, you can make your own.
I have them.
Oh, okay.
Then I'm not.
I got you.
I found what I like and I'm like, I'm gonna have that with some raspberries, it's raspberries. So those are my best.
Throw the green in there.
Lemon smoothies, varieties of lemons, and then a scoop of flaxseed chia.
Beans are really easy.
I've never done this.
Put them in and make them in a soup or just.
It's really, it's very easy.
Oh.
He wants to do it. Right, 'cause I did read that.
Yeah. I make. Yeah. Here's a cookbook. It's like an athlete and a chef, a triathlete and a chef got together. Actually, I think the chef is. Well, no. There's no, the two of them have it together. Well, they have a, the chef actually owns part of the supplement company, but his cookbooks are outstanding. So, it's actually curry. It's a coconut curry. It's a red lentil coconut curry.
It doesn't actually look like that.
Green. Doesn't matter.
Nutritionally different, I was in the middle.
They're all different.
Foods,
Just
I'm
pick
like,
them out. Just grab a bag of each. Yeah, the,
Obviously, but taste, texture.
the red cooks. Yeah, but beans are gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Gonna
gonna
have
show you
slice.
what it is, meat.
Yeah.
So. I do everybody.
Yeah. I'm not done. I would like to do that. Sit down and just do an entire day. What is 28 grams? What 25 grams look like? What does 38 grams look like? I think that would be ideal. They could see what that was.
I actually sent him 2 links the other day. One of them. I think you see
Yeah.
the website happened to have a list of high fiber foods. And it put it in, for example, red raspberries, you need 2 cups to get 20 grams. Like 2 cups, I can do that. But then apples, it's like 9 apples in a day. So you put all these high fiber foods in, like, no, I don't have a raspberry. Cups of raspberries.
Wow.
And then you can all red. But, I forget what the ones was. Most of them were several cups. Black beans is like 3 cups. I just looked it up. Yeah, well, it's like I've actually been tracking my food and my nutrition for 4 months. I actually use a really good app that actually does break down. So it is actually interesting. It is, when you're talking to people about nutrition, as a person, it actually is very helpful to say, okay, this is what this would look like. So I think 20 grams, that's a great number. Give me an example. It's that. That's why I said to him that was useful. Some of them, yeah.
You. Thank you. Thank you.
So much, please don't leave without eating some. Yes, take it with